All right, so get this. Lotus, those masters of like the super nimble sports cars, they just dropped this wild concept car called the Theory 1.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not just talking like a new paint job here, right?
Right.
It's got design cues from those classic Lotus models everyone loves, but then they've got tech in this thing. It's like straight out a sci-fi. I mean, you sent me a whole heap of articles about it, the specs, even some other design philosophy stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
So, like, where do we even start?
Well, I think what really grabs you about this is Lotus isn't just aiming for another, faster 0 to 60 time. This Theory 1, their concept, it really dives deep into the human experience of driving. That's what's captivating.
Okay, so it's not just a car. It's like
Yeah.
a whole driving revolution.
Exactly. Yeah, they've got this mantra, digital, natural, analog. Now, before you think like yoga retreat or something, what it really means is they're using tech to make the car like an extension of the driver's senses.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little. The digital part, what's that all about?
So think of it like the car's nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
You've got advanced sensors. Obviously, there's self-driving capabilities in the mix. But then there's this other thing, haptic feedback. Basically, it's a way for the car to talk to the driver directly through touch.
Hold on, haptic feedback. For those of us who haven't gone full tech nerd yet, what's that even mean?
Sure. So essentially, imagine this. Instead of just seeing like a warning light on your dashboard, you actually feel a pulse in the steering wheel, right? Like guiding you back into your lane if you drift. It's about making a connection between you and the car that's more intuitive, almost instinctive.
Wow, so it's like the car's anticipating what you're going to do, almost like a dance partner or something. That's kind of wild.
It is, yeah.
And this all ties into their whole Lotuswear thing, right?
Exactly.
It's not just a fancy name for heated seats, is it?
No, not at all. And remember that natural part of their philosophy we talked about.
Yep.
Lotuswear is all about amplifying those natural instincts you have as a driver. So picture this. They've got inflatable cushions, right?
Okay.
They're in the steering wheel, the seat, and they react in real time to how you're driving.
Wait, inflatable cushions. I'm trying to picture this.
Okay, so
Yep.
say you're approaching a corner too fast. You don't just get that little warning light, right?
Right.
You feel these cushions inflate, but they inflate on the side of your body that you need to turn towards, like almost a nudge in the right direction.
Yeah. So instead of taking my eyes off the road to check the dash, my body's just getting the message, like instantly.
Exactly. It's about tapping into that primal connection. Driver and machine. Heightens your senses, makes the whole experience more intuitive, I'd even say more thrilling, honestly.
This is already blowing my mind a little, and we haven't even gotten to the analog part yet.
Right.
But before we do, can we talk about sound for a second?
Sure.
Because apparently Lotus isn't content with just revolutionizing touch. They're going after our ears too now.
Yeah, they're really going for a full-on sensory immersion experience.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously sound is a huge part of that. But forget your dad's car stereo, okay?
Yeah.
The Theory 1 has this bespoke speaker setup for each headrest, and they designed it with this high-end audio company, KEF.
Okay, so I'm picturing concert quality sound here, which is already a lot. But why a separate system for each person? That seems a little extra, even for a luxury concept car.
It's all about creating this personalized experience, right?
Mm.
They call it a soundscape, which I gotta admit, sounds pretty intriguing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, imagine a symphony of sound, but it's tailored to you, the driver. And then your passenger, they can enjoy their own audio. You're not stuck battling over the radio station or anything.
So no more arguing over the O chord. That's a win in my book.
Exactly. It's about really enhancing every aspect of driving, from the physical stuff we talked about to what you hear. And this, I think, is where their whole analog idea comes into play. They're taking this cutting-edge tech, right?
Yeah.
But they're using it to amplify that raw, visceral thrill of driving, not replace it.
So it's not about making driving easier or, more autonomous. It's about making it more you, more engaging.
Precisely. And that's what I find so fascinating about this concept. It's not just about the technology itself, it's how they use it to build a connection between the driver and the car. It's deeper, more meaningful,
Yeah, for sure. It's like they're composing this symphony of sensations, and you, the driver, you're the conductor.
It's a really interesting way to put it.
But with all this focus on feeling every corner and having your own personal sound zone, are they sacrificing practicality at all? This is still a car, right? Not a spa on wheels.
Right, and that's where their whole Challenge 10 thing comes in. So you know how most cars use, hundreds of different materials.
Yeah, I imagine it takes a whole periodic table to build one these days.
It's crazy. And that's a logistical nightmare for recycling, obviously. So Lotus is flipping the script. They limited themselves to just 10 main materials for the Theory 1.
Okay, so I'm no engineer, but that sounds seriously hardcore. What's the advantage there, besides, not needing an app just to keep track of all the parts?
Well, for one, it's a huge statement about sustainability. Think about the environmental impact, right?
Yeah.
Manufacturing all those different things, recycling them, even just the energy it takes to move all those materials around, it adds up. So by streamlining their materials, Lotus isn't just reducing their footprint, they're kind of future-proofing their design.
So it's not just about being eco-friendly, it's about designing a car that makes sense in a world where, we might not have unlimited resources.
Exactly, yeah.
Smart. And speaking of those materials, you mentioned something earlier called cellulose composite. Now, that just sounds like it belongs on a spaceship or something, not a car. What is that?
Yeah, it does sound a little sci-fi, but it's actually pretty simple.
Yeah.
Cellulose is basically plant fiber. Think like super strong, lightweight wood.
Okay.
So by using it as a composite, Lotus can create parts that are incredibly durable, but still sustainable.
Hold on, are you saying they're making car parts out of plants now?
Yeah.
That's way cooler than carbon fiber.
I know. Right?
So, okay, that's pretty awesome. But, let's be real. This is still a Lotus, right? They've got this reputation for building cars that are, all about performance. Are they sacrificing any of that legendary Lotus handling to be more eco-friendly?
No way. Not at all. They've packed the Theory 1 with performance tech, self-adjusting suspension. They've really gone all out with the aerodynamics, the whole shebang. But even with that, there's still this focus on efficiency.
So it's not just raw power, it's like intelligent performance.
Exactly. Like, take the suspension, for example. Instead of just having a fixed setup, it's constantly adapting to the road. So you're getting optimal handling, but also maximizing efficiency. Especially since this is an electric car, we're talking about really making the most of that electric powertrain.
Right, because we haven't even touched on the fact that this thing is all electric. It's like they're not just rethinking the materials, the design, they're reimagining the whole heart of the vehicle.
Yeah, and that's what's so significant about this, about the Theory 1. It's a statement. They're taking that Lotus heritage, building those exhilarating cars, the driver-focused experience, and they're showing us how it translates to a future where we need both sustainability and performance.
Yeah. It's like they're saying, you can have it all. But how realistic is this, really? Are we really going to be driving around in plant-based cars listening to our personalized soundtracks anytime soon?
Well, I don't think we'll be seeing inflatable steering wheels in your average minivan next year or anything, but the point of the Theory 1 isn't to predict the future exactly. It's more about exploring what's possible.
Okay, so less fortune teller, more like mad scientist then.
Exactly. They're pushing the limits, playing with new technology, and some of those ideas, they're bound to, trickle down into the cars we'll all be driving eventually.
So they're giving us this glimpse into the future, but are we really going to see this on the roads anytime soon? Are we all going to be cruising around in cars made of plants, listening to our own little personal soundtracks?
Well, I don't think you need to trade in your sedan for a bean sprout-powered car just yet. I wouldn't expect to see inflatable steering wheels in, the next model year or anything.
Right.
But the Theory 1, it's not really about, telling us exactly what the future will be. It's more about exploring the possibilities, pushing the boundaries a little.
Okay, so less fortune teller, more like mad scientist lab.
Exactly. They're experimenting, right?
Yeah.
Trying out new tech, pushing the limits. And some of these ideas, they're bound to end up in the cars we'll all be driving eventually. Remember those haptic feedback systems we talked about?
Yeah.
That tech could be revolutionary, especially for safety as we get closer and closer to, self-driving cars.
You mean instead of just a little beep, the car could actually nudge you back in your lane if you start drifting?
Exactly.
Huh. Like those rumble strips they have on the side of highways, but in your steering wheel?
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just about safety. Think about accessibility. This could be huge for visually impaired drivers. It could give them crucial information, make driving more inclusive.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a really great point. It's like they thought about every aspect, not just the flashy tech. And speaking of flashy, you mentioned laser headlights earlier. Are those even street legal yet? They sound like something out of a spy film.
They are, yeah. And Lotus isn't the only one playing around with them. They use way less energy than LEDs, they last longer, and you can make them in these super compact shapes so designers have more freedom.
So better for the environment, more efficient,
Yeah.
and opens up more design possibilities.
Yeah, it's kind of a win-win-win.
Definitely. But honestly, for me, it all comes back to that digital natural analog thing. Like, they're not just adding tech for the sake of it, they're finding ways to make it part of the experience.
Yeah, it's about integration, not just tacking things on.
Exactly.
And that's what makes this Theory 1 concept so interesting, I think. It's not just about building a car for the future. It's about really thinking about our relationship with cars.
Mm.
How can tech improve our senses? You know? Make us more aware and actually connect us more to like the act of driving itself. It's a question that goes beyond just horsepower and all that.
It's a question for, like, the soul of driving, right? Especially in a world that's becoming more and more automated.
Exactly. And, okay, so the Theory 1 might just be a concept, a glimpse into what's possible, but it's making us ask the questions we're going to be dealing with for years to come. What do we want our relationship with cars to be like? How do we make them sustainable but still exciting to drive? You know, what kind of future are we creating out there on the road?
Those are some pretty big questions.
They are.
And we might not have the answers right now, but one thing's for sure, Lotus has given us a whole lot to think about. This Theory 1, it reminds us that the future of driving, it's not just about getting from point A to point B. It's about the journey, you know?
Yeah.
The experience, how we connect with the machine.
It's about the art of the possible.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And with that, we're wrapping up our deep dive into the Lotus Theory 1. It's a concept car that really sparks the imagination, makes you wonder what's next, you know? So we want to hear from you. What features blew your mind? What does your dream driving experience look like, feel like? Head over to the comment stream below and let us know your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe for more content like these.